today's video we're playing in the latest snapshot, Minecraft 19W11b, and in this snapshot, TNT drops every single block that it breaks, and I found that incredibly useful. If you haven't seen my video experimenting with it, there'll be a link to that one down in the description. Now this is an intended change by Mojang, it's here to stay, it's not a bug or an issue with the snapshots, they actually want this to be in the game, which is fantastic because it opens up all sorts of different opportunities for various different contraptions. And this one right here is one that I've just spent a bunch of time constructing, and I have to say I'm really quite proud of it. What it does is it allows you to convert concrete powder into concrete incredibly quickly. So if we flick this lever right here, you can see we have got a TNT dropping system, which is dropping TNT down there. And if we just hold down the right click button, yeah, I mean, the machine does the rest. So this is how fast our concrete powder can now be converted into concrete. I mean, you have to say this is pretty satisfying, isn't it? I mean, it's totally ridiculous. And if we take a look, you can see it's all being pushed down and then exploded by the TNT, is dropping off into the water, and then it's all making its way into the chest. How cool is that? The answer, of course, is very. This thing is very cool. But how fast is it? Well, first off, we need some form of frame of reference, so I got myself set up with an efficiency 5 pickaxe and a haste 2 beacon, and I did things the old-fashioned way with 9 stacks of concrete powder, and it took me 4 minutes and 12 seconds to get through all of it, which is, you know, a reasonable length of time. But then I tried exactly the same amount of concrete powder through my machine, and it took just 1 minute and 59 seconds to get through the whole lot. So I was incredibly impressed by that. In fact, it was a little bit faster than I was expecting, so that's a massive improvement over the old-fashioned way of doing things. And one thing that I personally was worried about is that some of the items would be lost through the TNT exploding them, but that doesn't seem to be too much of an issue. Throughout all 9 stacks that I put through it, we lost 2 items. And yes, I mean 2 items, it's a shame that we lost them, but it's not exactly the end of the world. So what on earth actually makes this design so fast? I mean, surely it's just as simple as pushing blocks around and then blowing them up. There can't be anything too complicated going on, and for the most part, you are actually correct. But there's a few interesting bits and pieces that I think the more technical of you are really going to appreciate. Well, first things first, we've got the TNT duplicator itself. Now the actual duplicator, nothing special about that, but the redstone clock out the back is set up to be about as fast as it can reliably be. You see the TNT drops out, before it even explodes, we've got a new TNT in the chamber. And the chamber itself is pretty interesting because it's holding that piece of TNT for as long as possible and then dropping it out just before it's about to explode, meaning the TNT explodes somewhere around here in midair so it can destroy as many of these concrete powder blocks as possible without destroying any of the mechanism. Now the next thing that makes this super quick is the use of 0-tick pulses. So on the left, we have got ourselves a regular smart piston, and if we hold down the right click button, this feels incredibly sluggish. I mean, I used to think these things are absolutely rapid, but they really aren't. There's plenty of time spent waiting around there. Whereas if we use this one on the right, you can see that, yeah, it's considerably faster. Now, if you'd like some more information about 0-tick smart pistons, I'll put a link to Ilmango's video down in the description. He does a great job of explaining them. Now, one smart piston, that's no problem, but having a line of smart pistons like we need for this design to function, that's where things begun to get challenging. You see, when I originally built this, I started out with everything being horizontal, and I thought this would function fine. We get a 0-tick pulse throughout all the pistons, but no. The only one that gets affected is the one at the end, and no matter what I did, I couldn't do anything about this. So then, after a few hours of scratching my head, I came up with the bright idea of doing things vertically, and originally I set myself up with something like this, and it seemed pretty good. I mean, you can see that all of the pistons fire on the last one, but then things begin to get strange when we start to go towards the middle. So this clearly wasn't going to work either. And just as I was about to give up, I came up with the idea of limiting the signal strength. So instead of using a redstone torch, which outputs a signal strength of 15 and powers all of these pistons, instead I placed down a furnace with 58 items on the inside, and that will output a signal strength of 5, which means that if we count it, it will only activate this smart piston here. So instead of having a bunch of smart pistons that are linked up with one another, what we now have is 5 smart pistons that all behave independently of one another. And as you can see, it all works perfectly. And this is the thing that completely saved my design. And I must admit, when I saw that it worked, I almost fell off my chair with happiness. So with all of the logic worked out, the only thing left to do was some form of item collection system, and this seemed to do the trick. And as you can see, if we just place in a bunch of blocks here, the maximum push limit is 1 block above the water. So that means that no blocks will actually end up in here obstructing the water flow. However, this part of the circuit isn't perfect currently because, as I found from my testing, the hoppers aren't actually fast enough to keep up with the items. So let's add a few more lines. And with that very slight modification to design, now all 18 stacks of concrete powder that I just ran through the system managed to make their way into the system perfectly. None of the hoppers were getting backed up, which means that you would be able to use this indefinitely without running into any issues. And if you were to do that for long periods of time, you would expect to see rates of around about 18,000 concrete powder converted into hardened concrete per hour, which I mean, who needs that much? Who needs that much concrete? Probably me, actually, now I think about it. So I think it's safe to say that I'm chuffed to bits with this one. Really happy with the design. Obviously, because this is built in the snapshot, there's a chance that things will change. But as I say, this was an intended feature by Mojang, and I personally see it as a very big step in the right direction for the game. Now, if you do want to check this out in a little bit more detail, I'll put a link to the world download down in the description so you can download this world for yourselves and perhaps even copy it and put it into your own survival worlds, because this is going to be incredibly useful. But anyway, I really do hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please sure to that like button, and if you really loved it, then make sure to subscribe. But thanks for watching, guys. This has been Mumbo, and I'm out. I'll see you later. Oh, and as per usual, check out the latest film on the filming channel. Link will be on the end screen. One.